Hello, you beautiful persons. Okay, so before we start this, I'd like to preface, I know absolutely nothing about pinball. The most experience I've had with pinball is Waluigi's Pinball on Mario Kart DS, so this will be my first experience not only with a pinball-themed video game, but with pinball in general. With that out of the way, it's time to talk about Kirby's Pinball Land. Kirby's Pinball Land is the third game in the Kirby franchise, and the first spin-off for the series. It was released in November of 1993 for the Game Boy, only 8 months after Kirby's Adventure for the NES. Since it was released after Kirby's Adventure, a lot of the elements in the game are a mix of Kirby's Adventure and Dreamland. I'll delve more into those details as we go on though. Surprisingly enough, this actually isn't Hal's first attempt at a pinball game, with the first game they developed being Pinball for the NES in 1984. Even after this, they released Revenge of the Gator for the Game Boy in 1989, a game that looks very similar to Kirby's Pinball Land in terms of appearance and gameplay. Heck, a lot of the sound effects from Kirby's Pinball Land actually come from Revenge of the Gator. I mean, since Hal has a history of making pinball games, this is surely meant to be a great game, right? Right? This is genuinely one of the worst games I've ever experienced. I thought all Kirby games were meant to be good. There's meant to be a standard, a baseline of quality. That's not what this is. Can you even call this a game? You barely have any control over Kirby in the first place. Are all pinball games like this? Is this what I've been missing? Sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't like this game. Gonna go ahead and set that record straight. But I'm not going to mindlessly hate on this game to you. I'll be mindfully hating on this game instead. I'm going to give it a fair review just like the last 2 review videos I did. I'll be analyzing the game based on these 5 categories, and giving my thoughts on each of them. With that being said, let's start with the game's story. If you're looking for a story in this game, you ain't gonna find nothing. Just like Kirby's Dreamland, the story is hidden away in the game's manual. The story we get from the manual doesn't really have much to go off though. To summarize what we get from this excerpt, DDD has these 3 pinball lands with bosses at the end of them. And to fight effectively in these lands, Kirby needs to roll up into a ball and act as a pinball. I mean, I don't understand the whole situation, but is tucking away your limbs really the best route? I do really like this bit at the end where they're telling Kirby to get ready for a wacky pinball battle! Like I said, it's very simple and a somewhat vague story. What are the pinball lands? Why did DDD make them? Did DDD make them? Why are the bosses guarding them? Ultimately, it doesn't really matter. They made this game to be a pinball game. They weren't focusing on even get a super intricate story, so I can't blame it for not having one. Surprised it even has one, to be honest. It does its job, sets the location, the antagonists, and tells you to go there and stop them. Nothing extraordinary, but not anything bad. With that out of the way, it's time for me to start complaining. So, the controls. Oh, the controls. To get started, the main 2 buttons you'll be using are A and pressing left or down on the D-pad. A is for the right bumper, while pressing left or down is for the left bumper. I think this is stupid. I can sort of see the vision as they're parallel to the actual bumpers on the screen, but I don't think it's that complicated to make the B button the left bumper and the A button the right bumper. While I already consider this a bad layout, what makes this so much worse is the awkward mechanic of being able to shake the pinball machine. You achieve this by pressing either the B button or the right or up button on the D-pad. The manual doesn't even tell you in which direction the machine is shaken. I imagine the reason it doesn't tell you is because the person writing it didn't even know there's a difference because it's so minuscule. Anyways, B is for shaking the table to the right, while upper right is for shaking it to the left. Do you understand how stupid this is? You not only have to use the D-pad for one of the bumpers, but you also need to use it for shaking the machine, and it's so awkward. I don't even really use the shaking mechanic because of this. It more often than not ends up with me forgetting to use the bumper when I need to use it. If I do ever shake it, it'll be with the B button, which only shakes it to the right. Very situational. If they would have just made A and B the bumpers, and the D-pad being for shaking the machine, it would have been so much nicer. Even vice versa would have been significantly better. Fortunately, the shaking isn't fundamental to the gameplay or anything. You can 100% beat the game without shaking the machine at all. But with how little control these bumpers give you, I would argue shaking is fundamental. Which leads me into the next topic, the gameplay. This is where the game really... What's the opposite of shines? Dulls? Diminishes? Falters. That's the word I'm looking for. Keep in mind, we're working with a physics engine built into the Game Boy. It makes sense that it wouldn't be perfect, but oh my golly gumdrops does it make me want to end it all. First off, Kirby just goes flying whatever direction he really feels like, regardless of where you hit him. There are times I've held Kirby with the bumpers and launched him and got the results I wanted, but the majority of the time when you hit Kirby, he just goes off wherever he really feels like it. There are times you'd hit him with a bumper and fully expect him to go flying towards the top right, but nope, instead he shoots directly towards the top left. I feel this has something to do with the momentum he carries, but then again it's hard to tell with how finicky the game is. Speaking of momentum, Kirby goes so fast, along with everything else in the game. It's super difficult to react quickly enough to actually hit Kirby in time. Everything just happens so quickly. This, coupled with how easy it is for Kirby to fall through the trough in the bottom, is so frustrating. There have been numerous times where Kirby just perfectly pierces through this hole in the bumpers while I have no options to stop him. I'll flow the bumpers all I want, but my attempts will be in vain. Maybe shaking the machine could have stopped the ordeal, but considering how weird that is, it's not an idea present in my mind in the midst of the panic. And that's just the basic gameplay. We haven't even started on the level designs. As mentioned in the story, there are 3 pinball lands: Whispys, Krakkos, and Poppies. Each pinball land will have 3 screens, and if you manage to beat the challenge on the top level, you'll get a chance to fight the boss. To select these stages, you either launch Kirby with the bumpers into a warp star, or just use the cannon at the bottom to pick more easily. Once you go into the stage, you'll be placed in the second level from the get-go. Each of the levels holds its own little challenge to try and get to the next one. Each pinball land also has a unique bonus game you can access through the second level. If you do fall through the bottom level, you'll get another chance to launch yourself back up with a springboard. The way this is designed is very creative and actually seems like a fun way to spice up standard pinball. However, while the idea is great on paper, the execution leaves much to be desired. Let's use Poppy Bros Seniors as an example, as it's the one I consider the easiest, having the simplest puzzles. Let's start at the bottom. Here you have to hit Mr. Frosty 6 times to clear the challenge. A little annoying to accomplish, but not too bad. You can also hit the chili at the top 8 times to get a warp star, which just sends you back to the level selection. A bit redundant, but oh well. There's also these 3 Kirbys called the Kirby triplets, that'll give you a maximum tomato if you manage to get them all in this pose. Speaking of the maximum tomatoes, there are a variety of items at your disposal. Kinda. There are less of things that you can use, and more things that either increase your score or make it easier for you not to fall. The maximum tomato, for instance, blocks a trough, so you won't fall through it. As easily, at least. The only other item that blocks you from falling are these energy drinks, in these little holes right here. Which are super appreciated because the amount of times I fell through these stupid holes makes me want to lash out at somebody.
Hey Joel, do you think you can?
All the other items are friend of bonus games, and just help boost your score, either with multipliers or just giving you a buttload of points. Anyways, after you hit Mr. Frosty 6 times, you launch into him and you'll get a little timing game for when he throws you. Not too bad. If you are bad at timing, you may get launched into the trough, but fortunately this game does have the springboard, and if you manage to time it correctly, you'll be launched all the way to the top level. Even if you fail at this, there are some extra lives here, so it's pretty fair with your deaths. Now, onto the next screen. You have these 2 big Kirbys with a food bowl in the middle. The Kirby on the left shows what he's thinking of, and whenever you hit him, he'll spit out whatever he was thinking of. These can range from good things to bad things. What you'll be wanting is either the squishy or the warp star. The squishy will just launch you up to the next level, but the warp star will send you to one of the aforementioned bonus games. Which I guess now is a good time to touch on. They're just games that you can play to rack up some points with a time limit. Some do give opportunities to give 1-ups though, which are very hard to come by, so trying to get those is super important. The bonus games are all based on which pinball land you're playing in. Here for instance, you'll be sent to the soccer game with the squishy acting as a goalie. Falling through the trough here doesn't kill you or anything, just shoot you back up. Once the bonus game is over, the bumpers will freeze and a warp star will appear in the trough, sending you to the 3rd level of the pinball land. Focusing back on the 2nd level real quick, if the Kirby spits out something you don't want, like a Gordo, then you need to hit the Kirby on the right to get rid of it. Timing this can be very annoying as you may get the item you want, but actually hitting whatever it is instead of hitting Kirby on the right can be very frustrating. Regardless, there's a lot of opportunities to progress, so it isn't that bad. Finally, you'll reach the last level before the boss. Here there will be 3 eggs that you'll each need to hit 4 times to break chicks out of them. If you don't break them fast enough, the Poppy Bro Juniors will slowly move towards the eggs and fully repair them. There's also this chicken that jumps back and forth in the middle. If you manage to hit it enough times, it'll turn into a maximum tomato, still bouncing back and forth. Hitting it again will net you the tomato. This one is extremely annoying just because of how hard it is to hit the eggs before they're forcefully put back together. I'd imagine this is extremely traumatizing for the chicks. The chicken also makes this super annoying as you might bump her right into it and launch you back down towards the previous level. More annoying, it's not impossible, and you are able to free all the chicks. Oh, but trust me, it gets worse though. Even if you manage to free all the chicks, that doesn't guarantee you passage to the boss. The chicks will come down with a warp star, and if you don't manage to time it correctly, they'll go away and you're back to hitting the eggs all over again. Considering how hard it is to control where Kirby goes, it's super easy to miss the warp star and so frustrating to do it all over again. Let's say you do manage to do it though. You actually hit the warp star and are sent to the boss. Fortunately, Poppy Bro Sr. is the easiest boss out of the three, in my opinion at least. He jumps back and forth between these two platforms, and all you have to do is hit him. During bosses, Kirby is a lot floatier with him stretching his arms and legs out, which does make it a bit easier. This is mostly because all the bosses have mechanics that freeze one of your bumpers! You know, the only means you have to actually controlling Kirby. Yeah, they temporarily get rid of that. You could be having the perfect run, but whoops, a bumper froze when you needed it. What's worse is that the best way to counter this is just to hold the ball with your bumper. However, that doesn't even work half of the time. Kirby just rolls over it. You know what happens when you fell a boss? You get sent back to the previous level of the Pinball Land, meaning you're back to cracking eggs. This is easiest to avoid with Poppy though. You're able to hit the bombs to stop him from freezing the bumpers. Halfway through the fight he does undergo mitosis, but this still isn't that bad. So we managed to beat the boss, yippee! This causes a key to appear in the middle of the screen that you need to collect. By the way, you can still lose here. I did a couple times. A great feeling. After you collect it, you'll be sent back to the menu screen, with the warp star for the boss being replaced with a balloon that has a letter on it. These letters spell out extra, and if you manage to get all the letters, you'll get an extra life. Each time you come into this room, the balloons will reset, and the letters you already got will stay. One of the very few opportunities to actually get extra lives. Now, everything I just described is assuming you go through the pinball lands without falling at all. But let's say you do fall. Each puzzle I described is completely reset once you fall down a level. You hit Mr. Frosty 6 times? Well, guess you gotta do it again. You just hatched the last egg but fell through the trough? Sucks to suck. Mind you, Poppy is the easiest challenges to me. There's so much more tedious to do in the other stages where the challenges take so much time to complete. This is so annoying because honestly, I'd say there's only about 20 minutes of content in here. With how janky the controls are and how annoying it is for every room to reset, the game just constantly drags on. I'll be completely honest with you. I've spent about 7 hours in total in this game. I've never legitimately beaten it. Actually, the closest I've ever gotten is beating one boss. One boss. And guess what? If you game over, all the progress you've made is completely reset. Trust me, I tried. This game is just so frustratingly unfair. It's way too easy to fall. Sure, there are things that help you, but that doesn't stop you from having next to no control over Kirby. Even the things that help you don't always work in your favor. And there are just so many instances where it doesn't feel like my fault. Kirby just perfectly falls through the empty space between the bumpers and there's nothing you can do to stop it. The difficulty just feels so artificial, unnecessary mechanics that are constantly working against you, leaving you an uphill battle the entire time you play. And honestly, it's a sucky feeling. I want to beat every Kirby game, I want to beat Kirby's Pinball Land. I was thinking maybe it was just a skill issue, maybe I just sucked at pinball. So I made my friends play it.
No! Get the out of my way!
Idiot.
No, get out of my way!
Wait, no! No!
Stop!
No, this game is genuinely awful to play. It's such a slog of always having your progress reset while there's practically nothing you can do about it. Literally, if they just made it so the rooms didn't reset, I think this game would be exponentially more enjoyable. It's just not fun. It's got so much of that old game stink where it's made super difficult to justify the length and the price. Which just seems a bit disrespectful considering the original goal of the series was to make games that are easy for new players. You know, the complete opposite of the stink. I don't know, maybe I'm looking too far into this. I'm gonna take a break from yapping about how much I hate this game and move into something actually positive. I gotta say, despite how much rage looking at this game fills me with, it's really pretty. It does take almost all of its assets from Dreamland or Adventure, but that's not a bad thing. Reusing assets is resourceful, I mean, I do it all the time. What matters is that you're using them in a new way, and they do here. All the enemies and items are remixed to have behaviors similar to their previous appearances, but in a way that makes sense for pinball, and I think it's really cute. Anyways, we're supposed to be talking about the art. Just about all the new assets are going to be seen when you're looking at the pinball lands themselves, like the whole level. All are unique and easily distinguishable. My personal favorite is Whispy stage. It's got this really nice looking wood texture to it, and I like it a lot. A really cool thing I noticed they did in this was make some enemies have shadows to show that they're jumping, like the chicken I mentioned. When they're airborne, you're not able to hit them, and it's a really neat visual trick that I like a lot. Worked really well in this pinball space. While they liked in gameplay and controls, they definitely didn't make up for an art, but they did a damn good job trying. Of course, a lot of the charm for Adventure was lost because of the black and white, but I still think it's super cute regardless. Now the music. I kind of have a problem with. Before you riot though, it's not because it's bad. I think all the new songs in the game are quite good. My main issue comes from the pinball stage music. I do not know how to describe to you the insanity I was feeling from listening to the Game Boy version of Bubbly Clouds for 2 hours while I was tweaking out over this godforsaken game. Outside of the music's repetitive nature, I still think it's pretty good. Definitely a good amount of nothing tracks just here to have music, but things like the boss theme or Whispy stage are really good and fun to listen to. The sounds you hear while playing the game are also pretty nice, just a bunch of fun little noises while you're racking up points. I particularly like the noise the twisters make whenever you hit them in Whispy stage. A lot of the sounds are borrowed from Revenge of the Gator though, with a lot of the others being borrowed from Dreamland or Adventure. Some more reasoning assets, but they're all really good, so I don't mind. Okay, that was a nice breather from all that negativity. Bad for the brain, you know? So let's say, by some miracle, you do manage to beat all the pinball stages. Now you get the opportunity to face DDD himself, the man behind this hellhole. Going into the fight, you either have the choice to beat him or die trying. No backing out once you're in. The fight consists of 3 phases that are meant to mimic each of the bosses, I think? He throws bombs in his first phase, and shoots lightning from his hands in his third. Didn't know DDD knew how to do that, by the way. But in his second phase, he just kinda floats towards you. Maybe there's something Whispy's been hiding from us. The fight actually starts out super cool, with this stage light illuminating DDD, and then reveals an entire arena in the second phase. Also, the second phase is pathetic, oh my god. I won't be complaining about an easy part in this game though. Putting that aside, this fight is super difficult. It's really easy to accidentally fall just like you do throughout the rest of the game, especially during the third phase where DDD is constantly freezing your bumpers with lightning. And if you do fall, the fight completely resets from phase 1. But it is possible, just takes a lot of dedication. Right before I beat DDD, I got this congratulatory message for getting 1,000,000 points that just took over my entire screen for a couple of seconds. I thought it was kind of funny. Once you do beat him, the game's over, thank God. You get a little sequence of all the enemies you encountered while Kirby is squished on the ground. Then you're sent right back into the game to keep racking up points. Definitely makes it seem like this entire thing isn't meant to be taken too seriously, since we're like an amusement park that DDD set up and Kirby's just taking part in it for fun. In terms of real life, it's just a little disappointing. You get nothing for your efforts, just more of good old Kirby's Pinball Land. Can't really blame them though, it's a game about getting a high score. Now before I finish this off, I wanted to go over some little secrets you can find in the game. They don't really affect my rating on the game, but I think they're neat and I wanted to talk about them. The first one is about these 2 cats. Whenever you're on the title screen, you can either press the left plus select plus A or B, or right plus select plus A or B to make them appear. Either getting a black or a white cat, depending on which combinations you put in. If you start the game and you put the codes in, everything will look normal first. Actually going into the stages will yield different results. If you got the black cat, then you'll be facing each of the area's bosses, and it'll give you infinite attempts at these bosses. Honestly, a really nice way to practice against the bosses, considering how tedious it is to actually get to them. Even against the DDD fight, you're graced with infinite chances. Does kinda suck that it's hidden behind a cheat code though. If you get the white cat, you'll instead get to try each of the level's minigames, which you also get to play infinitely. The only way to leave the bosses with their minigames is to reset the game, otherwise you'll just keep going at them forever. There is actually a button combination for resetting the game, which is a bit odd, but I guess it works here. A really weird addition to make it so these 2 random cats makes this happen, but they're really cute, so I don't mind. The last little secret I like to mention is something I didn't even know about until writing the script. Once you beat the main game, there's a set of 3 challenges on the 3rd floor of the Pinball Lands. These being opening all the eggs before the Poppy Road Juniors close them, clearing all of Mr. Shine's stars without killing Mr. Shine, and making this guy spin really fast, then hitting him again before he stops spinning. Doing so either makes Axe Knight, Meta Knight, or Blade Knight appear respectively, netting you 77,700 points each. A really weird addition that confused me when I saw Meta Knight and the sprites for this game. I think this is the only time Meta Knight appears on the Game Boy now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, I can't find any official media that this is mentioned in, so it's honestly like kind of weird and creepy. And that's all I gotta say about Kirby's Pinball Land. While I do really dislike playing this game, I'm not upset by its existence. Am I ever going to play it again? No. But I'm happy it exists. There's some really unique design concepts here that I think are super fun, on top of having some really nice visuals and overall good sound design. Just a lack of control coupled with the progress constantly being reset ruins the entire experience for me. And mind you, take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is my first time playing a pinball game. If you enjoy it, don't let what I say about the game dishearten you. Just from my perspective, it's an awful game. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go be like Kirby and roll up into a ball and lay on my bathroom floor.